Welcome back to the TeaTime with Teens podcast. I'm your host Diamond, and I thank you for listening in to this episode. So this episode is basically for teens and their parents as well. So if you pertain to that audience, definitely tune in. Today I want to be talking about a topic that's been more so on my mind these past couple of months with things I have just seen from the internet and stuff like that, and that's the topics of idolization and also influencers and celebrities. So yeah, it's a bit of a heavier topic, just so that you know, but I think it's a very important one to discuss, especially for the younger generation like me who has been accustomed to seeing influencers and celebrities in this sort of glamorized light that we're now starting to see is kind of a false narrative, or not kind of, is a false narrative. So I wanted to delve into that today. So sit back and enjoy this episode. So like I said, this episode was very much on my mind because if you've checked out any past episodes, I have talked about wanting to go into the film industry and interested in film and Hollywood, all that kind of stuff. But if you have been online in the past couple of months, you've probably seen there's some dark stuff going on in Hollywood, in the film industry, and just the entertainment industry in general. So that includes film, music, just straight up influencers, YouTube, stuff like that. And so I saw this stuff going on, and because there was quite some evil stuff, and I was kind of like questioning whether or not that was the sort of industry that I would want to particularly go into. And the answer is no. I do not want to go into the entertainment industry anymore. I think it was something that a lot of people were interested in the beginning, definitely when they were younger and stuff like that. But now, after seeing what it's really like, or it's showing its true colors, I think it's something that we as a generation, as a people, need to reevaluate if we should really be looking up to the people who are the main influencers in this industry. Now, I'm also going to be including YouTubers or people who are more renowned influencers, not by name, but just in general, because even these people who came up from YouTube and all these different platforms that are considered influencers with these platforms of billions of people watching them, I think we need to realize that they're on the same, even though they may not be respected as celebrities, they still have about the same amount of influence and are very much in the same sort of industry. So I thought that I would kind of mention them together in this episode just for your, understanding and context while I'm explaining some stuff during this episode. So the first thing that I wanted to kind of mention as a point was that Hollywood, the entertainment industry, influencers, they try to make everything look more glamorous and I guess shinier than it actually sort of is. And what I mean by that is there's actually a lot of darkness in the entertainment industry that we get glimpses of every couple of years, but I think that people don't really respect or understand the level of darkness that happens in these industries. And when you think about it, if we were seeing these headlines and constructs in other industries, we would not respect or want to go into them. But for some reason, Hollywood is kind of the exception where child abuse and exploitation is something that happens all the time, and we kind of just sit by and let it happen, or still continue to support these industries. Obviously, most of the time people aren't intentionally trying to support this, but I think it's something that we have to really think about. If you've seen stuff with the current campaign and there's been a lot of icons or idols or influencers from the past who have come out and talked about some of the evil stuff that's in there. And you even see it with young child stars that have grown up, like Selena Gomez, Justin Bieber, Demi Lovato, all of these all these child stars that came up, and you think and look at their lives now and you it's so sad that they had to go through that, that's really messed up. Or you think that their minds are just messed up. No, it's because of this industry that they were placed in from a young age, and we can see that that's very detrimental to someone's mental health and their spiritual well-being. A lot of these celebrities were raised Christian, or are Christian, or were Christian. Most of the time you wouldn't know unless you looked it up or really dived into their past, because they don't talk about it and they just have so many issues that they're showing people that you're kind of surprised that that's where it all started out and things went so downhill for them with substance abuse, mental health, all this different stuff. But I think it's really good to kind of question why this is happening in the first place. And they try to kind of mask all this stuff with, you know, the glitz and glam, like red carpets, getting movies, the teen glamorization of, you know, stars and stuff like that. You saw the same thing with Miley Cyrus and Hannah Montana. It was all sort of glamorized, and it's really not when they come out and speak up about their true experiences. And I feel like it's something that's still a bit swept under the rug and a bit forgotten, because we do think of just child stars, but there's plenty of adult stars that have gone through the same thing, and that's just simply not talked about. Like, I feel like a lot of, especially when it is older adults that have maybe come into the entertainment industry, maybe music people, actors, actresses, sometimes it's not more so a child star's exact, you know, transformation. I feel like it's a bit more subtle into the agendas that they kind of try to force on people and the kind of wokeness of the industry. To a certain extent, they're all kind of pushing a sort of agenda, even if they don't necessarily agree with it. And in the rare circumstance that someone actually, you know, speaks out about their different beliefs, they are somewhat shunned or canceled for it, which maybe I'll make another video about or episode about. But I think it's just something very interesting when you think about it, kind of how people go into this industry one way and come out such a different way, supporting different beliefs, dressing different ways, acting different ways. And a lot of this stuff, you have to remember when people are making documentaries, because I think a lot of people like to rely on documentaries that celebrities put out themselves. I'm telling you, if someone is putting out a documentary about themselves, you're going to think, okay, this is raw and real. This is really what happens in their life. Yes, some of that stuff does happen, but if they're in that control, they are not going to show you every little piece of everything that happens in their life. They're not. They're showing you the pieces that they want you to see, and ultimately showing this uplifting message to kind of get you back on their side, for you to support their music, to support their acting career. I feel like it mostly happens with musicians, but you know, an example is Demi Lovato. I'm just going to use it again. She's had about 3 documentaries, each of them being uplifting at the end, and then something happens, something crashes. She has another documentary, gets people on her side, supports her music, crashes again, has another documentary, and gets people to support her music. Now she is, and she has mentioned this before, that she shows a small portion, or she has in the past, of what her life looks like. There's stuff that's been edited, that's been cut out, that people didn't get to see before, and finally when the truth finally comes out, they now show these scenes that were in the previous documentary that were red flags, which is something to think about. I'm glad that she was a bit transparent about that. I haven't really kept up with what she's doing. I know it's not something I would want to support personally, but I think it's just a good example of how these artists, these musicians, actors are not showing everything that actually happens in their life. So you can't just take these documentaries as the whole picture and as something that they've overcome, because you really never know what they're actually going through and what they've cut out of these documentaries. So I just want to mention that. And then also the thing with influencers as well. Like I mentioned, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff is really, really fake. And like I said, with documentaries, they're only going to show you a small portion of their life, and they're going to show you the best portion that they can glamorize. You see videos all the time where people are crying in TikToks, or someone is recording them crying to send this uplifting message. When you realize that that's really messed up, to see someone crying, to see someone that's in pain and automatically record them, you question whether or not those people are actually in pain and they're just using this for clout, or if someone's just so disrespectful that they're just going to record someone in a hard moment instead of actually helping them, which is another part of the Bible that talks about when you do good works, you need to do them in private. You're not supposed to be flaunting stuff out here for everyone, because then you're uplifting yourself instead of spreading kindness. You're putting yourself on the pedestal instead of kindness and God that helps you to uplift these people in times of trouble, which I think is something that you see a lot now with TikTok, with Instagram. A lot of that stuff is honestly really, really fake. No matter how, you know, realistic people try to portray certain aspects of their lives, they're ultimately going to show you the glamorized version. I mean, it makes sense. No one's going to put the trashiest, just most raw and real stuff on social media. To a certain extent, it's going to be edited. So I think you find that a lot of influencers are kind of using this tactic to kind of uplift uplift themselves and to have people support them and their following as well, and their agendas ultimately, to make their audience think that, oh, we're just like you, all this kind of stuff, to enhance that relatability, that you follow them, and ultimately so that you can get hooked on whatever agenda that Hollywood or wokeness or whatever is putting out next, that ultimately does not really align with Christianity in general. And it's something that a lot of us have to be aware of, because it's that relatability aspect that sucks us in, that draws us in to kind of support and follow these celebrities or these influencers. And it's something we have to be more mindful of, because it can really take people's minds captive in ways that they didn't think of or know was gonna happen. And so, yeah, this is kind of a hard episode to sort of tackle. I ultimately just wanted to do this to kind of create awareness of some of the tactics that people might be using to kind of take control of your mind, and especially of young people's minds, because we are so impressionable and we are used to this technology and don't really think about the consequences of using it, because people in previous generations have never really had to use this technology or be influenced by it before. And ultimately, the biggest thing to remember is that your mind is very powerful, it's precious, and that's why these people, that's why Satan wants to get into your mind, is because he knows it's the most powerful thing you have. Your mind and your heart are the most powerful things in your body. They control how you live, and they control whether or not you live to the fullest of your life and to your ability as well. So I think the biggest thing is to remember to keep your mind and keep thinking for yourself. Ultimately, these influencers, and I'm not talking about all influencers, I'm talking about people who are, supporting different agendas, who are really being manipulative with the power that they have. These influencers, these celebrities, are ultimately trying to get you to think like them or to think a certain way. They're not trying to have you think for yourself or think for your own well-being, no matter what they put out. A lot of what's put out is being your own person and acting your own way, and in reality they want you to act the same way. They want everyone to have the same beliefs, they want everyone to act the exact same way, and they don't want you to have a mind of your own. They don't want you to be able to think for yourself, because if you're able to think for yourself, you're going to be able to question whether or not what they're saying is true, and question what in reality is truth, which is the Bible, which is the Lord or Savior. And I think it's something that we don't think about as much because of what I mentioned earlier. But I think that the biggest thing that you should take away from this episode is that you really have to be protective of your mind, and you have to be protective of your heart, especially when you're seeing all these repetitive ideas. It can kind of seep into your mind that this is truth, that this is right, but you have to ultimately stay strong in your beliefs and question what you do believe, so that you can be stronger in who you are personally and who God has created you to be. So that's kind of all I wanted to say for this episode, for this week. I hope that y'all have a great week. Please keep your mind strong, be safe, and have a good one. Bye.